All right, folks. So I got to say, college football doesn't disappoint. Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Late night, Saturday night, Sunday morning, USC on the field against Fresno State. JT Daniels taken off the field just a few minutes ago before halftime, and USC in trouble after looking really good early, taking a 14-3 lead at 17-10 right now over Fresno State. The Bulldogs were 13.5-point underdog to the Trojans. And of course, a big night of college football. The biggest event over the course of the last several hours was, of course, Auburn coming back against Oregon, down 14-3 in that game, 21-13, 21-6. Yeah, 21-6 at one point, and coming back to win it with the freshman quarterback, Bo Nix, certainly doing his job, but actually the way Gus Malzahn called the game certainly protected him, put him in the best possible way to win the game, and that's, in fact, what happened as Nix threw the touchdown pass to complete it at 27-21 final score for the Auburn Tigers as they were setting up possibly to win it with a game-winning field goal from Carlson. Didn't need it. Went for broke, won the game. Auburn wins in defeating what could be the Pac-12 champion eventually, like they did last year in week 1 over Washington. Another hard-fought game between Auburn and the top of the Pac-12. Last year's game was one of the best games, probably the best game of week 1, the hardest-fought game of week 1, and the same thing again this year. Auburn wins. Gus Malzahn calling the plays with Bo Nix at the controls, and there you go. Auburn wins a big game to start out a brutal schedule for them. They get the non-conference victory over Oregon. Would love to know what you have to say about college football. I'm going to check out the live chat. Of course, we go with the phone calls as well. 860-325-3687. The super chat is on. Some of you people have caught the vision, understand what I'm building here, what I'd like to do in delivering the best in college football content every day, discussion, debate, and analysis, and what I need to get that done. All right, so the super chat is on. Also, if you shop at Amazon, and I know this, and it's brought to my mind because I got my Amazon payment today. It was $21 for the month. So I thank you for that. The $21 you contributed. Well, that because of you listening to me, grabbing that link, doing your regular shopping, and didn't spend an extra penny, but some of that goes to me and goes to the channel, $21, then obviously we want to build that up and make that a revenue stream that we can count on. So thank you so much for that. My prediction record, I'll go through it in just a minute at some point, but we did rather well throughout most of the day, even though Auburn burned us with a 3.5-point spread. They should have just kicked the field goal. We would have been golden on that one, and Northwestern burned us, but that's okay. You can catch the audio, but you're not going to be able to catch as much as the video, but most of the audio is a reflection of the video that we have at Podbean, iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, and Google Play. Got a call coming in, so we will, of course, take it. I explained during the early show tonight that, of course, we're going to get the phone call situation worked out. I bought all the equipment. I hooked it up, ran a number of tests, but to no avail tonight, but we'll get there. Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Who's on the line?
Hey, Mark, it's Sid on steroids.
Hey, what's going on tonight, man?
It's going good. I'm an Alabama fan, and we got the win, so that was good. But
You did?
I wanted to, yeah, I wanted to get get your opinion on Bo Nix. How do you think he played tonight?
I think Gus Malzahn obviously took great care in protecting him in a way that would obviously not expose him to standing in the pocket for a long time. So not expose him physically, not expose his game that he would have to make difficult decisions or have to make difficult passes downfield. So that's first and foremost. And within that framework, Bo Nix performed rather well. I'll pull up the numbers at some point tonight. I have not looked at them yet, but just watching him play out there, he looked extremely confident and comfortable. And it was reflected in the final score and the flow of the game. The more he played, the more reps he got, the more he got into the flow of the game, got knocked around a little bit, responded to it. Uh, Auburn responded offensively to him, his energy, responded to his leadership and his playmaking ability. And there you go. And the running game helped him. The running game was fairly non-existent in the first half. Boopy Whitlow got going in the second half, and that helped him out as well.
Yeah, the game was, towards the end, it was eerily similar to the Auburn-Oregon national championship. I thought that was kind of funny, but I was hoping Oregon would pull it out because I'm an Alabama fan. But I guess it's a win for the SEC, who didn't really show up today. Besides, the LSU, Alabama, Texas A&M, and UGA. But yeah, because what do you think about Tennessee losing to Georgia State?
So I only saw a couple plays of that game. There were other more meaningful games on at the time, but what I collected from that game is a bit shocking in that Tennessee lost to what is typically a lower level group of five, not just a group of five, but a lower level group of five, gave up 38 points, couldn't run the ball. Ty Chandler had one big run in the game. Otherwise, Tennessee couldn't move Georgia State off the line of scrimmage. And that's telling because that is where Tennessee's been hurting. That's what we expected to be hurting for Tennessee coming into the season. But if they can't move out an FCS opponent or a group of five opponent at that level out of the Sun Belt, then they're going to have to fix some problems. And those problems are difficult to fix when you talk offensive line. And I'm just speaking of one problem. I didn't watch the game, but again, I know that based on the rushing statistics that they weren't able to get push up front. And that's shocking out of an SEC team against that level opponent.
Oh yeah, I mean Georgia State went 2-10 last year, I believe. So yeah, I was pretty shocked about that because I had Tennessee going 7 wins this year. Maybe making a bowl game, but I don't know if that's out the window yet. I mean, I don't know if that's out the window now. Because of this loss. Maybe they'll bounce back, but that's it for me. Enjoy the show.
All right, Santa. Appreciate the phone call, man. Have a good night.
All right.
All right, Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. And again, some of you don't really care about this, but I'm going to point out this is hurting me that I made the investment. We were testing for hours, and everything seemed to work, and it's not working in regards to the phone calls going through the interface, the audio interface here. But hey, we will plug away at it some point this week when I have some time. But you got the phone number there at 860-325-3687. So subscribe to the channel, of course. Keep your house in order, of course. Got too many things flying around. And we'll run through the day in college football. There we go. All right. Who's on the line here? We got AB checking in. And people taking shots at the SEC today. Go ahead and take shots at the SEC today. You can do it because the wins the SEC racked up really only counted for one. One really mattered. One was against a worthy opponent. And that, of course, the Auburn Tigers defeating Oregon. Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Who's on the line?
Yo, Mark, it's Deeper Rod. How's it going?
Hey, Deeper Rod, how are you?
I am very, very happy today. Obviously, because my Longhorns want to know, but also, I kind of, I'm not trying to say I'm not like 100% loyal fan to my team, but after we were up 38-0 halfway through the fourth quarter and Casey Thompson was brought on, I kind of switched over to the Oregon game. And that was worth watching, even if you were a neutral fan. That was probably the game of the day. Might even be one of the games of the season. I mean, probably not the game of the season, but one of the games of the season for sure. And I got to say, man, what a final play by Bo Nix, man. I think that kid is due for a breakout college football career. He might even, surpass his father's career at Auburn. And that's saying something considering he's just like a true freshman. I mean, I expected him to be pretty good, but I didn't know he would be this good game one. But he was the number one dual threat quarterback coming out of, high school. So no surprise there. And then the second point I want to make is that I want to know your thoughts on how this shapes up the Pac-12's college football playoff hopes. I personally think the Pac-12 is in grave little bit of a concern because they haven't beaten any SEC top 25 opponent in years now. Obviously, we saw Washington have the same fate last year. Oregon was the highest rated preseason Pac-12 team. They just lost. So, rest in peace, Pac-12 as well.
Yeah, that appears to be the game that matters, as it did last year, the Washington-Auburn matchup. The same thing this year, and especially if Auburn has its issues in the SEC. Now, if Auburn turns out to be a surprise SEC Western Division contender, like serious contender, then it looks better for Oregon, because if Auburn marches on, let's say Auburn goes 11-1. I'm not saying they're going 11-1, but we're playing out the schedule and the scenarios. Then this looks good for Oregon. It looks good for Oregon if, even though it's a loss, if you evaluate the teams and the way they stacked up against each other, if Oregon went toe-to-toe and actually outplayed much of the game, a team that goes 11-1 in the SEC, then it looks good for the Pac-12, even though it's a loss. But most likely that's not going to happen. And Auburn's an 8-4 team. Last year they went 7-5. And if they're beating the Pac-12 champion, and they're going 4-4 in the SEC, or 3-5 like they did last year in the SEC, then that looks awful for the Pac-12. The Pac-12 is going to have a few other shots in this, but not necessarily from the right teams. Stanford plays Notre Dame. USC plays Notre Dame. They're most likely not going to be that good to that degree, and they need Notre Dame to be really good. Other than that, who do you have? You've got an Arizona State team that plays Michigan State next week. You need Michigan State. Then it all is the A plus C, A, B, and C factor, in that you need the teams that you beat or lose to go and have really good seasons. And we have to see that play out.
Yeah, I personally have to, I agree with you on most of what you said. I personally think the front runner, and again, I said this as my favorite to win the Pac-12, preseason favorite to win the Pac-12, but I think that Stanford is the front runner in terms of the strength of schedule. I'm not saying they're going to, I think they're going to win the Pac-12, but I think that they have the best schedule to create a good image for the Pac-12 heading into bowl season and college football playoff contention or the race. Obviously, I have Washington, who also has Jacob Eason, who's going to be really good. Utah looks like an impressive team this year. Looking at Utah's defense, I don't know if you caught any of that game, but Utah looked very impressive week one. I know it was just week one. I know it was against BYU, but I think that these are the three teams to watch out for. If you believe that, Oregon may or may not be in that tier as well. I think Oregon will still be very much alive. Looking forward, though, you got to keep in mind Oregon plays Stanford and Washington both on the road this year. Those are two very difficult games in their division that they're going to play on the road. And I think that they're going to lose at least one of those games. They could lose more. But I think that it doesn't necessarily hurt. The Pac-12 just creates a bad image for them. And, I'm not necessarily much of a Pac-12 fan. I mean, I live in the West Coast, obviously, so I'm going to support the local team as like my second or third team. There's such a thing. But I'm not going to lie, man. Like, football is a little bit of a slightly dying sport in parts of the West Coast, partially because of the lack of national perception that the Pac-12 has been able to attract. And I think this shapes up very, very well for next week. One final point I want to make is that my Longhorns, they performed very, very well today. They looked clinical both offense offensively and defensively. There was concern about the 8, starters that we lost on defense that everyone was talking about, but it wasn't really noticed all game. And it could be because of the guys that were replacing them were all, well-groomed, redshirt sophomore, redshirt junior. Some of them are seniors who are now taking over as starters and are now what is considered to be, more talented 4 and 5 stars, at least based on what we have from their ratings and, just the way that they played against Louisiana Tech. And then Sam Ellinger got a little banged up today, but he did end up, leaving the game after the score was 38-0. So we allowed Casey Thompson to play a quarter. So I personally think, based on the eye test, I think right now Texas looks like one of those top 5 teams. I think that, everyone else played really well as well. LSU drubbed Georgia Southern, I believe they played. So it's going to be a very, very fascinating week too. And yeah, you have any closing remarks?
Tennessee lost to Georgia State, and that should do it, Deeper Rod. I appreciate the phone call, man.
Yep. Take it easy, bye.
All right. North Carolina with a big win against South Carolina, 24-20. We know what South Carolina's schedule looks like, and this is just the beginning. So this is a win that most of us gave to South Carolina over North Carolina, looking at the two programs over the last few years. But this is college football, and Mack Brown knows what he's doing. Is he a great, great coach? Is he in his prime? No, I don't think any of the above, but he's a really, really good coach who certainly achieved at North Carolina. The first time around, I know it's been 22 years, but he took over a program that was down, lifted them up. Check out the records of Mack Brown at North Carolina during his first stay. It was not the North Carolina that we even saw at the best under Larry Fedora, squeaking into the top 25. He was producing top 10 teams at North Carolina. Obviously did that at Texas, and I know that's easy to do at Texas, but other coaches have failed. Charlie Strong, the most recent at Texas, and now Mack Brown takes over at North Carolina. Week number 1, playing a decent opponent, they win. And so for all those people that took shots at me several weeks ago on our Florida State show on Wednesday night when I said Mack Brown, I rated Mack Brown as a better coach in the ACC than Willie Taggart, and people took shots at me, and we now have the latest sample, number 1. Boise State wins in Tallahassee with a first-time starting quarterback with inferior talent all over the roster, although anybody with a brain knows that Boise State was going to put up a fight and would run with the 5.5 points like I did. And North Carolina looks much better. And Mack Brown, just in that short sample of time with the program, has pulled them together to a certain extent. Now, is North Carolina going to take off and win the Coastal Division? I'm not going to say they're not. Of course, I'm not going to say that they will. I picked Virginia to win the Coastal. They got off to a good start and very much under the radar based on what I saw. People not talking about the Pitt-Virginia game, but my goodness, Virginia came away with a nice win considering they lost to that same team the first week of November last year in a key Coastal Division matchup, and they get a key Coastal Division win right out of the gate. Day number 1, Virginia wins on the road at Heinz Field by 16 points, dominating the second half 17-0. So look out for Virginia. That was my pick in the Coastal as well. So Mack Brown, it's only 1 week, but it's a decent opponent, and it's far above anything North Carolina's accomplished since 2016, right? When they went to the ACC championship game in 2015. They had Mitchell Trubisky in 2016 with Hood and Switzer and Davis and that crew that lost in the last play of the Sun Bowl to Stanford, and they were awful ever since. All right. What else do you guys have? I want to run through the scores and give you my take on everybody. So I'm trying to check out the live chat in front of me, but I can only go so far back to bring these comments onto the screen. Of course, we posted instant analysis on Ohio State earlier today, and also on the I was captivated by the triple overtime of Iowa State and Northern Iowa. We could have had our first top 25 upset. And it didn't happen there. Eli, how hot is Willie Taggart's seat now? I don't think this one game's going to determine anything. It's not good. It's not good. 5-7, lose at home as a favorite. They have a reasonable schedule, though. But yeah, it's not good. So maybe he loses his job if they're headed toward another 5-win season before it turns into a 5-win season. I think regardless of what happens, he's going to make it through this year, and that next year, a lot of coaches like this, next year is going to be serious hot seat year. Jim Harbaugh possibly as well. Michigan wins. I don't think we can really take much from that game. I didn't see anything. I saw a couple plays. I saw the defense break down and give up a touchdown early. But Michigan Army next week. Interesting test for the Wolverines at home. Of course, Army gave Oklahoma all they could handle last year. It's good to see the Tar Heels break out. We have not heard from North Carolina now for a few years do anything. So it's just kind of fun to see North Carolina actually be relevant for a week at least. And now that brings us to Miami and North Carolina. And you know that we'll have all sorts of coverage on that game from the Miami perspective. And we'll try to balance it out as best we can from the Carolina perspective leading into week 2. Okay. Here we go with the scoreboard. Stanford beats Northwestern 17-7. Cardinal leads 10-7 late in that game. Got a strip sack fumble for you betting people. That was a huge turn. It was for me. But what's important is KJ Costello knocked out of the game at one point. Davis Mills had to come in and finish out the game for Stanford. We'll hear in the next few days how KJ Costello is doing. Same thing happened on the other side where Hunter Johnson started, the 5-star from Clemson for Northwestern. He was pulled from the game, not knocked out of the game, pulled from the game because Northwestern only produced 3 yards in 12 plays. And then TJ Green, the walk-on, came in as USC is about to score a long touchdown against Fresno State and take a 24-13 lead. TJ Green came into the game for Northwestern, and he was just rattled, physically beaten down, hit, knocked out of the game, taken off the field, and then Hunter Johnson had to come back in, led a touchdown drive, but Northwestern loses 17-7. So we'll have to keep an eye on the health status of both TJ Green, the Northwestern quarterback, and KJ Costello. Arkansas wins over Portland State 20-13, just part of that Arkansas awful non-conference schedule against the FCS in the group of 5. They've got a date against Colorado State, which should be interesting since they lost in Fort Collins last year. Texas Tech wins over Montana State 45-10. All right. Big win for BC. Virginia Tech. You figure BC doesn't have a chance to win the Atlantic, just like nobody else has a chance to upset Clemson and win the Atlantic. So the win doesn't mean as much for BC, but the loss means a lot for Virginia Tech because that Coastal Division should be tight. And BC beats Virginia Tech as a 5.5-point underdog today, 35-28 at home. So that one was a good call on my part. And I evidently need to refresh my screen because Syracuse is not still playing Liberty. That's been a final for quite some time. So this could be a while. Here we go. Let's take it from the top. Washington State leads New Mexico State 58-7. Again, we've got a touchdown from USC minutes ago. Don't know who that was. Missed it on the screen, but 24-13. Bama wins over Duke 42-3. I know that there were some criticisms of Alabama's play since they didn't start hot, didn't start fast. but they just beat a team that's going to win 6 to 8 games, 42-3. That's how good Alabama is. And no, I don't like them playing neutral site games, and they're going to correct that. They already have for future years, but they've been doing it for over 10 years now, and I hate it since they don't travel anywhere and haven't traveled anywhere. But still, they play teams in other conferences, typically good teams, better teams than Duke and Louisville the past 2 years, and they win all the games. So credit to Alabama. I knock their scheduling. I knock their neutral site games. I knock scheduling a Duke and a Louisville, those type of games. Schedule that game. Go ahead, Alabama. Schedule that game, but schedule somebody else among your 4 non-conference games. But the credit has to also go to Alabama because they win all of these games against the likes of Duke and Louisville and even the Florida States and USC's and Wisconsin's and Michigan's and Virginia Tech's and West Virginia's. Every year. Georgia kicks a late field goal and beats Vandy by 24, 30-6. Jake Fromm with workmanlike day, 15 of 23 for 158 and a touchdown. Ohio State, we talked about them earlier, 45-21, looked amazing in the first quarter, offense and defense, and the defense kept looking amazing, and the offense just, after the first 4 drives, 4 touchdowns, first 4 drives, couldn't be stopped. We're playing against air and then nothing. Does that mean anything? Yes and no. I think it means something. I don't think it means as much as if it were a competitive game and suddenly they were figured out by the opponent. So it means something. Ohio State's going to need to bring it better than that starting next week against Cincinnati. LSU over Georgia Southern 55-3, the tune-up for the big Texas game in Austin. Michigan wins, as we talked about, 40-21 over Middle Tennessee, fairly easily for the Wolverines. There's the Texas win over Louisiana Tech. They got out to a 38-0 lead, win at 45-14. As Deeparat told us, Sam Ehlinger banged up in that game. Game of the night in terms of just play on the field and importance to the college football playoff and the perception of conferences. Auburn 27, Oregon 21, basically a last play of the game type scenario, winning with like 9 seconds left. Then Justin Herbert actually had a shot to at least throw the ball in the end zone. Here's an future NFL quarterback. Get the ball in the end zone. Nobody's going to catch it when you fire it 8 yards out of bounds, out of the end zone. Give your guy a shot. Give your 3 and 4 guys in the end zone a shot. It's called the tip drill. Justin Herbert, I know he didn't want to do that, but when you're that good, you can't let that happen. You don't fire a bullet out of the end zone. You loft the ball up and hope for the best. What most likely happens? You don't catch it, you don't win, but you have a chance. And we see most college football weekends, we see a Hail Mary work at some point. I know that there was a run of Hail Marys last year or the year before. It seemed like there were 2 or 3 every week. So Justin Herbert, got to give your guy a shot. Washington wins 47-14 in Jacob Eason's debut with the Huskies. Penn State 79, Idaho 7. I'll have to check out that box score just to see how many yards and just big plays were racked up by the Nittany Lions. We were concerned about the offense. We still should be. This doesn't prove anything, but 79 points against anybody is something. Iowa scores late to beat the spread. They beat Miami of Ohio 38-14. Heard Urban Meyer's comments after the game. He really likes Iowa. And he had a great point, and it's a simple point, and it's a point we all know that watch college football, and specifically those teams that are lacking a lot of talent in the Big Ten Western Division. Iowa, Northwestern, and Wisconsin in particular, all well-coached programs that know what they're doing, know who they are, know how to develop a team throughout the season, and they all get better typically throughout the season. Iowa, Northwestern, Wisconsin. And of course, the Badgers got off to the best of starts, winning over South Florida 49-0. Instant analysis. Check it out on Iowa State in Northern Iowa. This was a really good overtime session. The Cyclones taken to the brink at 29-26 by a first-time freshman quarterback. Syracuse wins in shutout fashion over Liberty 24-0. Nebraska was not impressive. I had that game on. It wasn't my primary focus, but I had it on, caught most of the game over South Alabama 35-21. They only led by a touchdown in the fourth quarter. We mentioned the Stanford win was big for the Pac-12 over Northwestern. It's big for the Pac-12 if anybody pays attention to how solid Northwestern is, but Northwestern's always underrated. It's crazy to me that the media can't get that straight. Illinois wins over Akron 42-3. Indiana over Ball State 34-24. Boise State, there it is, 36-31 over Florida State. And I'm going to slice and dice this game throughout the week. We'll, of course, have our Florida State Seminoles live show on Wednesday night at 7 o'clock. So everyone who's watching tonight and who will be watching once this records, listen up on Wednesday night. Not only Florida State Seminoles live at 7, Miami at 8, Ohio State at 9, but Michigan at 10 o'clock Eastern time. Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Who's on the line?
What's up, Mark? It's JT Sports.
JT Sports, how you doing, man? How you been?
Good, man. How about you?
I'm good. We're back at it. It's week 1.
Yeah, man. I just wanted to call in, talk about a couple of things, ask you a quick question, but I just wanted to rub some FSU fans' nose in the ground. I just want to say, man, I just want to say, Willie Taggart, man, if Florida State was to release him, they would have to pay him 85% of that $30 million, which is $25.5 million. So he's not going anywhere, which means FSU won't be winning any games no time soon. So Willie, I hope they keep Willie around for the next couple of years so Miami can get some easy wins off him. And I mean like Boise State is a good program. Like coming into the game, you probably knew as well that it was a possibility that Boise State could pull off the upset. But I still went with FSU despite the fact that I despise FSU. Simply for the fact that I thought FSU just wouldn't lose to Boise, and then they changed the location of the game at home to Doak Campbell, and I was just like, no way. And then they were up 18 points. I changed the game. Then I ended up watching Nebraska, Southern Alabama. I was watching a couple of games. Then I come back and I see that FSU just choked the game to Boise State with a true freshman quarterback.
You pretty much said it all right there. I had all sorts of people on my back and making fun of me when I ranked Mac Brown as a better head coach as Willie Taggart. Yeah, he's not getting the job done. Now, I did not see a play in this game. Unfortunately, once it was moved to noon and it went to ESPN News, I was feeling pretty good, although I remembered that I don't have ESPN News and couldn't even get it online. So that was rough. So I'm going to have to just catch it later. But, yeah, the offense must have looked great in the first half. And then that Boise State team, Brian Harsin, they're not afraid to go anywhere, play anybody. They're not fazed by deficits. They're a tough-minded program, and they proved it today. And right now, Florida State's a weak-minded program.
Pretty much. And then another question is, okay, so people were asking me this. I didn't really know a good answer. So Oregon losing to Auburn. We obviously know that the Pac-12 was probably one of the worst conferences in all of college football. And actually, it was a stat when I was watching Cincinnati beat down UCLA. The AAC has a better record versus Power 5 opponents than the Pac-12 and the ACC.
Did you say top 5 or top 25?
I mean Power 5.
Oh, against Power 5 programs. Well,
yeah,
that certainly doesn't sound good. I would need to see the games, though. I would like to see who was playing whom, though.
Yeah, but I think I realized, like, although the teams weren't good, like, it's just the fact that, like, the AAC, I just like the fact that now it's starting to get a little bit of recognition. Like, a lot of people are now not really looking over like how they have been in the past, and I really hope that Houston beats Oklahoma. And then another thing is, Oregon lost tonight, and people were asking me. They were like, "JT, the Pac-12 struggles to make it into the college football playoffs. Now Oregon lost to Auburn. Do you think that the Pac-12 now is going to get into the college football playoffs at all?" And I didn't really know, so I was like, I don't know. It just depends on the fact of how the conferences go. I don't really know how I feel about the Big Ten. We already know what the ACC is like. So I just want to ask you, man, how do you feel about the Pac-12's chances of getting in? Because they still got a couple of good teams. They got Utah. Still think Oregon's a good team, and you got Washington.
Well, I would say that anybody that's making a complete statement about the Pac-12 not having a chance to make the playoff, and that's a definitive 100%, is making an idiotic statement. This was not good for the Pac-12. I'm not saying that. This was not good. This was the game that the Pac-12 needed to win, because we saw the same thing play out last year, where Washington eventually won the Pac-12. They lost to Auburn. Auburn did not have a good year in the SEC, going 3-5. So that does not look good when your conference begins the season considered the worst conference, and then your eventual champion loses to a team that goes 3-5 in another conference. That's not a good look. But we're going to have to put it together with some other results. Now it's going to matter what Northwestern does. Now, from a national perspective of people that don't really dive into the layers and layers that we do, they just look at this is the biggest game, and they're going to look at that. But you need to look at all sorts of games. So, meaning Notre Dame, how good is Notre Dame going to be this year? That's going to matter a lot, because if USC and or Stanford can beat Notre Dame, then that looks good for the Pac-12. Likewise, the Northwestern situation again, but I don't expect Northwestern to be a really, really good team. So Stanford pretty much did what they should do today. They were at home as basically a touchdown favorite. Unfortunately for the Pac-12, Washington doesn't play anyone. They play BYU. Washington State doesn't play anyone. These teams cannot not schedule quality opponents and expect their conference to carry them, because they don't have that cachet in the conference. A Big Ten team can do that. An SEC team can certainly do that. But the Pac-12, the Pac-12 is not in good position right now because of this game. Is it impossible? Well, of course it's not impossible. Washington could go undefeated, and they would go to the college football playoff.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too. But I wasn't really sure, because I think Oregon and Washington, but I think they were both in the same division. I think they end up matching up against each other. And I was trying to see, like, I was saying, like, it all depends on how good Oregon's future opponents start going forward. And then, like, one more question. So UCF and Stanford play. I don't know if it's next week or week 3. So if UCF beats Stanford, right, and Cincinnati plays somebody, is it Ohio State?
Yes.
So if UCF beats Stanford, right, and let's say Cincinnati puts up a fight against Ohio State, even though I don't really know how much big of a win versus UCLA is, but let's say Cincinnati puts up a fight versus Ohio State, and let's say UCF beats Stanford. Would the American Athletic Conference now actually be taken legitimate?
Okay. So for the American Conference to have any shot at this, the team that needs to do it is UCF, because it shouldn't matter. So listen to me and listen to the logic here. It shouldn't matter what UCF did last year and the year before, but it does. It does. It skews people's bias, and it will skew and affect and influence that committee. If it's UCF already comes into the season with the most respect as a program based on what they've accomplished the last 2 years, going undefeated, beating Auburn, staying within one score of LSU. So they're the team. And then they also have the game that you just mentioned against Stanford. They have the most significant game. Well, Cincinnati does against Ohio State. Now, if Cincinnati could beat Ohio State, and run the table and have a UCLA win and an Ohio State win. But to be more realistic, UCF has a shot, more than a shot. They have a legitimate shot against Stanford. So UCF is carrying the banner for that conference.
Oh, Mark, you know who else I forgot? We forgot Houston.
Well, they play Oklahoma, sure.
Yeah, I so what if Houston beats Oklahoma tomorrow? Because a lot of people think it's a good chance because Oklahoma's defense hasn't really been that good, and Houston has Eric King, who is one of the most electric quarterbacks in the nation. He suffered like an injury last year. So I mean, do you think that is a legitimate chance that Houston could win tomorrow? And if they do, could that also elevate the conference as well?
So in 2015, 2016, Houston beat Oklahoma with Baker Mayfield. And that Houston team put itself in position. So Oklahoma went on to win the Big 12, win all its games in the Big 12, and play in a New Year's Six Bowl. That Houston team was in great position because of beating Oklahoma and beating them soundly to possibly play themselves into a playoff. Now, they tripped up later in the season against, I believe, Memphis. But yeah, Houston would be the two teams that on paper, based on opponents that have the path, are Cincinnati because they play Ohio State and Houston because they play Oklahoma. That if Ohio State and Oklahoma then go on to be conference champions, obviously that win, those wins would be huge, significant. But UCF's the most likely team to do it because they can beat Stanford. Yeah, the American Conference, they schedule big games. They've got the opportunity. If anyone wants to listen, anyone wants to pay attention, if one of them can pull off one of these wins.
Yeah, I mean, I just think it's crazy how we came such a long way when we talk about the American Conference, because I remember the first thing I found out about American Conference was that year they had Blake Bortles and they went in there and they shot Baylor. They were like a big upset. They went in there, shot Baylor in the Fiesta Bowl. Then a few years later, Houston upsetted FSU and what it was, the Peach Bowl. And then it's now crazy because that conference looks pretty solid. I mean, the first half. Now, when we get to the bottom half, they have some bad teams. But I mean, that conference looks a little bit good, and I think they could just build up the bottom of that conference just a little bit more and get a couple of those good coaches that they have at those schools to stay. Then I think that conference could end up being very, very good in the next couple of years, especially Memphis. Memphis beat Ole Miss today earlier, even though I don't know if that's a big win since we don't really think Ole Miss is going to be that good.
Okay. You've made your claim for the American Conference. Now they got to go out there and win some of these games.
Yeah, man. And my last question before I go, since you're a Ohio State fan, how do you feel about Justin Fields, even though you guys played FAU?
I thought Justin Fields looked fine. He was fine. He didn't do anything special, but he certainly didn't make mistakes. When they stopped scoring, it was because the offensive line wasn't blocking guys. That was the biggest difference between the first quarter and the rest of the game. Justin Fields didn't do anything egregiously wrong. He looked good, but again, he didn't have to make difficult throws. He was basically throwing against air in the first quarter. Guys were so wide open. He was just making the kind of throws that he would make in practice on 7-on-7. So he looked fine. He's got talent. He can sling a football.
Yeah, especially with that 51-yard run he had. But okay, Mark, I'm gonna let you go, man. Just to let you know, I'm rooting for Cincinnati to beat you guys next week. I doubt it happens because that guy Chase Young is a freaking monster. Don't know if Cincinnati's going to be able to block him. But just know I'm going to be rooting for Cincinnati. I'm rooting for the American Athletic Conference going forward. And I hope they legitimately can submit their claim of what they do in their commercials becoming a Power 6 conference.
Okay, root for Cincinnati. Have a good time. We will talk to you soon, man. All right. Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. And what I do each and every Saturday night, which is, man, it takes a while, but I got to read all these recaps. So I will go through all the FBS scores and I will read the recaps. So I have some semblance and I'll look at the little highlight package. So that's my homework each and every Saturday night to try to get through as many box scores and recaps and highlight packages, because even when we go nuts watching college football all day, how much can you really watch? Because all these games are being played at the same time. So I've got them all on DVR. Of course, I'm missing this USC-Fresno State game to talk to all of you fine folks. And what do we have? Do we have USC still up 24-13? You know how when your TV goes to sleep, it's annoying because then you got to press a button and get it going again? That's what's happened to me like 3 times. And it's so incredibly annoying because I'm not getting the right angle on the TV. If there are any recaps, any instant analysis you would like me to get to, the ones I'm best prepared to do would be Auburn and Oregon. That's the one I should do. And also, I saw most of the Northwestern Stanford game. I could certainly speak to the Georgia-Vandy game. The Georgia defense, of course, got the job done, only giving up 6 points. I got to correct this. I just got to. We must have a battery issue with the remote. Nothing's responding to my remote. Nothing. None of the buttons. Anyway, we'll listen to Rod Gilmore and whoever the play-by-play guy is. And also an important score here from Tampa. Rays 9, Indians 6, unfortunately. Very important game, as my tribe is struggling to maintain pace with the Twins. Deeper Rot reminding us that Texas is back. Good to see from George, Drake, Knapp, Cheryl on the line. And we got Brody on the line. And nothing really that stands out here. So I want to let you guys know that now we're in season. So the live stream schedule and the content delivery is going to be consistent every week. And this is what we're setting out to do. So let's get our week set up starting on Sundays. Every Sunday, I'm doing a live stream leading into the NFL games. That live stream most weeks is going to be from 11 a.m. to 1. Tomorrow, I'm moving my daughter into college, so we will not be doing that. But later in the afternoon, I will be right here. I'm going to set that live stream for 4:30 Eastern time tomorrow, right here, Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. We come to you live with a call-in show. Who's on the line?
Hey, Mark. Michael Oak. How you doing tonight, sir?
Hey, Mike, I'm doing just fine. Hopefully everyone can hear you. You're a little bit faint, but that's not your fault. That's mine in not getting my audio fixed for the call-in show. But go right ahead, Michael.
All right. I just wanted to get your impression. I don't know if you seen much of the Purdue game last night against Nevada. I know it's one game, but I just wanted to see what your take was about the offensive line after the first game for the first 3.5 plus quarters.
So I watched. I didn't watch the comeback, unfortunately. I got a personal phone call and I was checked out after that. But Purdue had like a 10-point lead the last I saw. So I didn't see the big comeback. And then I was a bit surprised. It went through my mind. Man, this is setting up for a big finish, and maybe Nevada's got a shot. I would love to see this finish, but Purdue should not lose to Nevada, even though the game's on the road. But their defense was not good last year. So Purdue, it's kind of odd that Jeff Brom takes over as a passing guru, and really the reason he won a bowl game the first year and turned around the program was the defense. But they had a senior-laden defense. Those guys left, and their defense took a huge step back last year. And their defense was supposed to be much better this year because all the production, almost like 95% of the production, came back on defense. But they weren't good. We're not good in this game, and Elisha Sindelar made mistakes. And, of course, the last pick, which I did not see, but with about 50 seconds left in the game, proved to be the undoing of Purdue. So it's not a big shock to me that they lost at Nevada. Purdue's not a great team. They're going to go. I picked them 6-6 this year. But they're better than Nevada. If they played Nevada 10 times, they'd win 7 or 8 times. But it was not a big shock. They're not. They had their best recruiting class since 2004. Purdue did, but they're going to have to build off that, and obviously that's a class that's not going to have a lot of impact on this team because they're all freshmen right now. I think Michael's off the line. Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. We've got the number at 860-325-3687. I'll try to get to as many comments on the live chat as possible. I hope there's nobody out of 34 people that's on the line right with us right now that have not subscribed to the channel. Boy, it's getting late. 1:30 in the morning, not subscribed to the channel. I would hope so. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, check out the videos, see what we do on a daily basis, and I think you'll agree that even if you think I'm a moron and you don't agree with me, that we deliver the best discussion, debate, and analysis from myself and all sorts of different people that we bring on as guests, and obviously you folks. And together, I have people bring this up to me all the time, and people criticize me calling myself the voice of college football. I did not start that. You started that. I had people out there calling me the voice of college football, and I just said, hey, I'll take it. That's a great brand name. Got to admit, from a marketing standpoint, it's a great brand name. But I also believe that the channel is the voice of college football. You're the voice of college football. Everybody on the live chat, everybody that comments, the voice of college football. The guests we bring on, 107 guests last year, the voice of college football. I'm the voice of college football. We all together are the voice of college football. And we've got the super chat on. So if you would like to see me do this full-time on a regular basis and not have to make very difficult decisions within the next few months or years at some point, then please, you can contribute to the channel monetarily by using the super chat, or you can just send your contributions to Mark Rogers TV at Venmo or at PayPal. Of course, we've got the betnow.eu set up. The link is below in the description section. So you get 100% added, not 50% that I have right now listed on the graphic. I've got to change the graphic. You double your money. Whatever you put in your account, you double your money. They give you the other portion of that. So if you put in $50, you get $100. If you put in $100, they give you an additional $100. Just use the promo code MRTVCFB. Let's check out my predictions. How did I do this week? And you guys all know where you can get the predictions. That's at the Voice of College Football Community is where you can find my predictions. All right. I sure wish I would have gone by my one prediction here that I had Auburn covering the spread, because I'm marking it down in my official predictions that I missed that game because I thought I took Oregon in the 3.5 points. Anyway, took so far this season, I took Miami to cover the 7.5 that they received against Florida. So that's 1-0. Clemson minus 37, 2-0. Texas State plus the 33.5 against Texas A&M. That's 2-1. Utah to cover 6 against BYU, 3-1. Michigan State, Tulsa. I took Tulsa plus 23.5. That's 4-1. Took South Florida plus the 13 against Wisconsin. That's 4-2. Ohio State let me down. I took them to cover the 27.5. They did not. That's 4-3. Took South Alabama plus 36 against Nebraska. That's 5-3. I took Northern Iowa and 18.5 against Iowa State. Of course, that game went to overtime, so I'm 6-3. Washington minus 21. I took them to cover that against Eastern Washington. They did. That's 7-3. I've got Fresno State tonight in 13.5. I don't know where we stand at this point. I took New Mexico State in 32.5. They're getting just obliterated by Washington State right now, so I'm going to mark that down as a loss, 7-4. I took Louisiana Tech in 20.5 against Texas. That's 7-5. I took Duke in 35 against Alabama. They gave up the late touchdown. Why'd you do that, Duke? So that puts me at 7-6. Idaho in 40 against Penn State. They got drubbed by 72 points, 7-7. South Carolina lay the 10 against North Carolina. I'm 7-8. I took Northwestern in 6.5, and boy, did I run into bad luck there with a strip sack in the last few seconds. So at that point, I'm 7-9, 7-8. Boston College over Virginia Tech. Well, I not only picked BC plus the 5 points, I said BC was going to win outright, so that was a big winner right there. 8-8. I took Boise in 5.5 against Florida State, 9-8. I took Georgia to cover 21 against Vandy, 10-8. Took Michigan in 34 to cover, 10-9. Auburn to cover 2.5 against Oregon. That's 11-9. Iowa to cover against Miami. They did 12-9. Virginia to cover against Pitt, 13-9. And then finally, I took LSU to cover against Georgia Southern. They did 14-9. You take that every time. 14-9. If you can do 14-9 every week, you're pulling up the Brinks truck, and you're just shoveling money into the back. 14-9 gets the job done easily. What is 14-9? Do the percentages. It's like 62%, something in that range. And man, if Northwestern wouldn't have been stupid in the final few seconds. But that's the way it goes. So if you want my predictions, you go to the Voice of College Football Community. Boom, there's the graphic right there. Voice of College Football Community, link is below. Shop at Amazon. I made $21 this month. Thank you. And I sincerely mean it. Thank you. That's a ton of people getting on and doing your Amazon shopping using the link that we provide. So it's the same shopping experience. Please use the link from Amazon that we provide in the description section below. All right, let's get back to the comments. I'm going to go in reverse here. A lot of people are putting 5 there. I don't know what that means. If you like Army, press 5. $31-13 USC. I don't like that. $31-13 USC. Fresno State, do something. Is Jack Sears in the game? Who's in the game for USC at quarterback? Army at Michigan. Big Ten lovers. Something, Dennis. Mark, what games are you most interested in seeing? I'm guessing that means next week, Mercy Week. Okay. We're already talking about next week. Why not? And so after the Notre Dame-Louisville game, for those of you who were with me last season, you know what's coming. The top 25 that actually makes sense. I got so sick of looking at the top 25 every Sunday and seeing where a team that's 7-2 just beat a team that's 7-2 and they were ranked below them, and a whole lot of other nonsense. Somebody goes out and they're not ranked and they win a really significant game, but because they weren't ranked, they got to work harder than somebody else that's ranked that loses and doesn't look good and stays in the top 25. That's idiotic. I will warn you that my top 25 is going to look odd to you, especially the first few weeks of the season until it kind of flushes out. But this is for an example. Last year, Maryland beat Texas week 1. I don't care what we think about Maryland at that point, what we think they're going to do. They haven't done it yet, whatever it is. I didn't think Maryland was going to do anything special last year. I picked them to go 5-7. They went 5-7. But I'm not going to base my ranking on what I think they're going to do eventually. I'm basing my ranking on one thing. What has everybody done? What did they do on the field? So for Maryland, at that point, they only beat Texas. That's all we knew. They beat Texas. Well, that's a good win. So I ranked Maryland like 8th in the country, and people were like, "You're an idiot. Maryland's not the 8th best team in the country." Yes, you're an idiot because I'm going by the results. I know they're not the 8th best team in the country, and that's going to prove itself out. And when it does, I will drop them and drop them out. But as it stands right at this current time, that's what they've accomplished. That's how we should rank teams, not based on some ridiculous perception of what we think's going to happen in 3 months. Rank the teams based on what they've done. There has to be some level of assumption given. You can't get around that. So, for example, after this first week, people are going to make certain criticisms of me, and I don't mind that. It's good for debate, and people bring up good thoughts and good points on my top 25, and sometimes it causes me to say, you know what, you're right. I should have given that a little bit more thought in regards to my rankings and holding to my principles on the rankings. But you have to make some level of assumption. So Auburn beat Oregon. We all think that's a significant win, but we are making some level of assumption that Oregon's good. Otherwise, we have no idea. They might be the worst team in the country, and Auburn only beat them by one score. You got to make some assumptions to have rankings at all, even later in the season, but especially after 1 week and 2 weeks and 3 weeks. Come on, Fresno State, score. All right. Next week, somebody's asking me about next week's games already. Okay, next week, Thursday night, Friday, no Thursday game. Oh, the NFL. The NFL owns Thursday next week with their big, whoever the Super Bowl champion typically has that game. But I think this week it's Green Bay. This year it's Green Bay and Chicago. Anyway, so no Thursday night football. Interesting. Friday, nothing of significance at all. Yeah. This shouldn't happen. This shouldn't happen right here. This is what's wrong with college football. And you guys that watch me on a regular basis understand this. The scheduling sucks. You know why the scheduling sucks? Because they're not working together. Every school goes and schedules whatever they want by themselves. No school should be scheduling its own schedule. There should be a committee, and I've explained this, and believe me, I'm not going to explain it now. There's a way to do it much better, and this is the result. I never even factored this into my formula. My formula has more to do with making it fair and balanced and equitable among all the teams and not having Stanford go play Central Florida, Notre Dame, and Northwestern non-conference and having other teams play nobody, like Baylor plays nobody. So that's my scheduling purpose. But this would also result. Do you know who's playing on Friday night? Basically garbage. So we've got no game on Thursday. We've got no college football on Thursday. Then on Friday, we've got nothing to watch. This wouldn't happen if there was a central committee to make sure that we had at least one, if not several, 2 or 3 decent games on Thursday and Friday. The best games would be reserved for Saturday, but that there would be decent games on Thursday and Friday, just like there was last week. Now, this week, we have nothing on Thursday. And on Friday, we've got William and Mary in Virginia, Wake and Rice, Marshall, Boise State, Sacramento State, Arizona State. That's our Friday slate of games. You know why? Because the schools are scheduling their own games. If we had a committee that would look at it and say, oh man, okay, maybe we do give the NFL their opening night. Maybe, maybe not. Who cares? But on that Friday, my committee would say, we need to have at least a decent 7:00 game and a decent 10:30 game. So we would have maybe an ACC game or a good American Conference game at Thursday night at 7:00, and then at 10:00 we'd go out to the Mountain West or the Pac-12 and we'd have a decent game. Not the marquee game of the week, but we'd have a decent game on Thursday and Friday night from the Pac-12 or the Mountain West. We'd have a Air Force Boise State game, or we'd have a Washington State Cal game. William and Mary, Virginia. Wake Forest against Rice. Marshall against Boise State. Sacramento State against Arizona State. How stupid. Awful. All right. Sorry to not answer your question about what games I'm going to be watching, but I thought I would start on Thursday. There's no game. Friday, should be no games with that schedule. So if somebody held a gun to my head, I would watch Wake and Rice, I guess. All right, Saturday, let's start at noon. I'm watching Ohio State, Cincinnati. First and foremost, hang on. But I've also got Maryland and Syracuse on a screen, and Michigan and Army will be on a screen at noon. Anybody else? What about Missouri losing today at Wyoming? They've got to face West Virginia. That's a noon game as well. So those other games are in my back pocket. Vandy and Purdue. So a lot of not great, but interesting noon games. Ohio State, Cincinnati, Michigan Army, Maryland, Syracuse. As a completely neutral college football guy, that would be the game that to me would be the most intriguing at noon. Maryland, Syracuse, but I'll have screens on the other games as well. Again, Vandy, Purdue, interesting game. All right. So we got about 5 or 6 games of interest at noon, and most likely I'm going to be here live. I didn't go live and do as much instant analysis this week as I typically would. And for those of you who joined me all of last college football season, as I typically do, but the kids were home. Daughter's home from college. She's leaving tomorrow. So I had some more important things to do. All right. So once we reach, here we go, 3:30. It's got to be Clemson, Texas A&M. And then my alternate screens will be on Nebraska, Colorado. And that's really it. Okay. Fox typically has a good game at 4. I guess not this week. Yeah, really nothing during the 4:00 hour. 3:30s. Man, I'm going to be locked in on Clemson and Texas A&M, which is fine. It should deliver at least for 3 quarters, but usually there's like 4 or 5 good 3:30 games. There's nothing there. All right. Later in the evening, wow, nothing. 7:00. 7:00. Tennessee and BYU? Really? 7:00. All right, there we go. There's our game. 7:30. Once we hit 7:30, I'm good. LSU, Texas. I rated this as the top, both most important and most attractive non-conference game of the entire season. Texas, LSU, ABC, 7:30. on a Saturday night. Oregon, Nevada, considering what Nevada did last week, a couple days ago. Interesting. Really nothing else that night. I like to have a second game to go to because let's say LSU breaks out to a 31-10 lead. I want to watch something else. Ole Miss and Arkansas, that's on the SEC network. I can't get that. All right, 8 o'clock. This is on the ACC network. I can't get that either. Miami, North Carolina. Brings a little intrigue to it, considering what happened with North Carolina today. All right, 10:30. Oh, man. So late night, we've got 3 good games. So we've got garbage at 3:30, aside from Texas A&M Clemson. And all through the evening, the later afternoon, garbage, nothing until Texas and LSU line up. Then late night, it's beautiful late night. I may not be right here late night. We may need to take in the games, focus on the games, and then deliver the instant analysis late night because Cal Washington, under the radar, really good game. Cal beat Washington last year. Stanford USC on ESPN. Minnesota Fresno State. Gophers won at home by a touchdown last year, but they've got to go to Fresno State. That's a good game. 3 really good games late night next Saturday. There you go. Whoever asked that question. Rutgers at Iowa should be on prime time. Dennis, Deeper Rot should start a Texas channel. I like that suggestion. Ohio State needs to stop losing to the Purdue's first. Okay. Where does your daughter go to college? Okay, let's not get into that. Mountain West Conference dominated this weekend. Colorado State did lose to Colorado. Boise State won. Mountain West. The Mountain West. The Mountain West. Love the Mountain West. Good conference. Brings us a lot of good Thursday and Friday late matchups. Boise State, of course, won at Florida State. Wyoming beat Mizzou. Yeah, good call. Utah State barely lost to Wake, so that's a good showing on the road. Nothing wrong with that. Colorado State loses to Colorado. Okay, not a big deal. Nevada with a big win against Purdue. Good comment here out of Shanktopotamus. Absolutely. And Fresno State playing right now, and if they lose to USC, that's expected. Not a big deal. But, yeah, the wins over Purdue, Missouri, and Florida State. Is the Big Ten better than the Mountain West? Of course. It's not even a debate. It's not comparable. It's not. But will the Big Ten win 3 games over the likes of Boise State, Missouri, and, well, Purdue is in the Big Ten. But somebody like Purdue outside the conference? The Big Ten doesn't even play enough games like that outside the conference. They've got Notre Dame, Iowa State, Stanford. They lost already to Stanford. Michigan State's got Arizona State next week, but really no big games in the Big Ten. And I ranted about that this week. Check out the video. It says bad Big Ten scheduling. Nebraska, Colorado might be somewhat interesting this weekend. Yeah, Ohio State's defense was dominant today. The Big Ten looked like the best conference this week. Jim John. Ohio State didn't matter. Penn State didn't matter. Michigan didn't matter. Michigan State beat Tulsa. Maryland didn't matter. Rutgers didn't matter. Nebraska didn't matter. Didn't even look good. Iowa didn't matter. Wisconsin, okay, they rolled South Florida. They Northwestern lost to Stanford. No shame in that, but they didn't win. Illinois beat Akron by 39 points. Purdue lost to Nevada. How did the Big Ten look like the best conference this week, Jim John? Jim John, what are you talking about? The Big Ten looked like the best conference this week. No. All right. I would love to know what's going on with my TV and why I can't see USC and Fresno State. So to take you guys through the week, again, as I was starting to say before I got my last phone call, I'm going to be live here each and every Sunday. I will let you know exactly when, but bank on 11 a.m. most weeks, 11 a.m. Eastern time on Sunday. We'll lead you into the NFL games 11 to 1. Tomorrow, 4:30 Eastern time live stream right here at Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Then every Sunday/Monday, I will release my top 25 that actually makes sense. That will come this week on Tuesday after Notre Dame plays Louisville on Monday night. And yes, if Louisville beats Notre Dame, they're going to be ranked because that will make sense. That doesn't mean I think Louisville is one of the 25 best teams in the country. That means that they will have earned a ranking at that point. My newsletter, a couple people signed up this week. The Voice of College Football newsletter. Please sign up. Send your email to mine at markrogerstv at gmail. We deliver one newsletter per week on Monday, hopefully Monday, sometimes Tuesday, but Monday. We did this each week of the college football season last year. People loved it. You get stats, facts, and trends that you won't find anywhere else in one collection. Also a channel update, but people love the facts, stats, and trends that we delivered each week. So send your email to mine, markrogerstv at gmail, and we'll get you the Voice of College Football newsletter every Monday. All right. What I'm going to do going forward, in addition to my live stream, my set live stream schedule, which is going to be Sunday live stream, most of the time at 11 a.m. Eastern time, but Sunday live stream, Wednesday night live streams at 7, 8, and 9, featuring Florida State, Miami, and Ohio State. And then Friday and Saturday live streams, Thursday night late, because I have to work. Late Thursday night, 1 a.m. live stream, Friday night live stream, Saturday during the games. In addition to those, I believe what I am going to do, and we'll see how it goes, is when I book guests throughout the week, I'm going to let you know, okay, Mike McDaniel from Inside the ACC is coming on Tuesday at 2 o'clock Eastern time. I'm going to send out the notification. We're going to do all of our team report conversations in live stream fashion where you can jump on, ask questions, and make your comments. And if I have time to hang on for a few phone calls, I will. But that's why you got to be locked in each and every day, because I'm going to update the live schedule every day. Practically every day is going to change, as my aim every week is to deliver analysis, pregame, previews on all the big games every week. All right. What else do we have for you? The newsletter, viewer comments. I started to collect viewer comments. It was my aim starting this season to do a viewer comments reacts every Friday. If you want my predictions, and again, 14-9 against the spread thus far this season, get those predictions by grabbing the link in the description section below. Next to the Voice of College Football community. There it is. All right, everyone. Anything else? Any other damage we can do? Please help us build the channel. Catch the vision. I know many of you, NCIS Fanatic 21 in particular, used to ask for this all the time. He wanted us to do live streams and talk about the channel. That's more of an off-season thing, but I may do that soon and let you know kind of in the inside look at what I am building. What we are building, because without you, this doesn't happen. You're doing more than I am to build this channel. So thank you. So I've got a big vision, And we are in the process of making that happen. So any suggestions, recommendations that you have, please send them my way. Not in the live chat because I'll miss them, but at markrogers.tv at Gmail. Let me address any last comments. And if I have enough energy in me, let's see, it's 2 o'clock in the morning. I will look at the Auburn-Oregon game and possibly provide some analysis. Or if I can get anything out of this USC game, which I, of course, have not been watching, I'll deliver that analysis. Tell your friends we're here. Let them know. Social media acquaintances, people that you don't know but you interact with on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Let them know that we're here. Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. All right, let's catch up with your comments. So also with the voice of college football community, the offer is out there that I will bring you on to talk college football with me. We'll do exclusive live streams we did for 7 or 8 weeks because I had a couple viewers and subscribers to the Voice of College Football community. And so we knocked that out. And I'm in conversations with somebody else setting up a time. What my vision there is that once a week for at least an hour, I have as many people that want to come on, and we talk college football. I bring you on just like guests, and we have a big panel discussion, round table, college football round table discussion each and every week. That's the vision. Good night, Deeparat. Michael Hogg, see you later. Cheryl, good to see you. Michael, Dennis. Ronald Krikorian. USC needs a new team already. Ronald, this is tradition, Ronald. Welcome to Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Unfortunately, I can't go with a big arm swing anymore because I would run right into that. I used to really bring it. Ronald, would love to know who you root for and how long you've been watching me. Matt Casey. I've never seen this name in the live chat as well. Do you think Arizona State has a chance to win the Pac-12 South? Absolutely, they do. Utah was good against BYU, but they showed me some offensive line issues. They don't have premier playmakers. Zach Moss is a beast, and Tyler Huntley's good, but also remember there are injuries, and both of those guys missed significant time last year. Could happen again. Yes, Arizona State's got a shot. I picked Utah. I picked them to go 6-3 in the Pac-12 and win the division and go to the championship game. But Arizona State, yes, they have a chance. Matt Casey. Welcome to Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. I'm guessing you're an Arizona State fan. If not, let me know who you root for and how long you've been watching. Chris Caligaro. Do you still like Georgia? I don't know if you're talking to me. Oh, you must be talking to me about my big prediction on Georgia. Chris. Welcome to Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Chris, thanks so much for joining us. I would love to know, again, it's just interesting to me to know because sometimes people will let me know after commenting and then I recognize them. I've been watching for 2 years, and other people, I just found you 2 days ago. So I would love to know that and who you root for. Our aim is to cover college football across the board. Is it possible for me to do that as one person? To be honest, no, it's not possible. But if you check out the videos, you can tell that we give it a heck of a shot. Just in the last month, let's say during the summer, preparing everyone for the 2019 season, who did I do videos on? Like, I mean, multiple videos. breaking down positions and updating fall camp, recruiting on, Georgia, Florida, Kentucky, Missouri, South Carolina, Texas A&M, LSU, Auburn, Alabama, Ole Miss, Ohio State, Penn State, Michigan State, Michigan, Nebraska, Northwestern, Oklahoma, TCU, Iowa State, West Virginia, Texas, Washington State, Oregon, USC, UCLA, Arizona State, Utah, Notre Dame, Miami, Florida State, Clemson, Syracuse, Boston College. We did all those teams. Pitt, UCF, we did all those teams just in the last 6 weeks. So, yeah, we cover it just about as well as one guy can that works 50 hours somewhere else. So that's what we aim to do. It's not perfect. It's not a completely balanced. It can't be. I try to focus on the best teams, the best matchups, and then go from there. But hey, you're going to get a Minnesota South Dakota State preview as well. You're going to get that kind of content. I did one Michigan. I did a Michigan State Tulsa preview. So that's what we aim to do. Anybody else that I've never seen before? Bob Satterfield. Bob Satterfield. I hope you're still on the line because you're going to get a big, big welcome. Welcome to Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Bob, let us know who you root for and how long you've been watching. Jeff, it's good to see you as well. You need to get YouTube TV $50 in every game. The SEC did not look good today. All right, 37 on the line. I think it's time to say good night. I'll catch the end of this game. Certainly, you can do whatever you do. And again, lock in on the notifications. Please subscribe to the channel just for the notifications because I'm going to let you know there are going to be updates to the live stream schedule almost every day. But for right now, 4:30 Eastern time tomorrow, live stream right here, taking your calls. Also, the big Wednesday night shows with Florida State at 7, Miami at 8, Ohio State at 9, Michigan at 10. And then next weekend, of course, well, Thursday, there's nothing, but Friday, Saturday night, all through the day on Saturday as well. Live streams, call-in shows. We'll do it up big. You guys are amazing. You keep me going. The encouragement is amazing. The discussion, the debate, even when you criticize, even when you say, Mark, you blew it. What are you talking about? I love it. Thank you so much for joining. We will see you very soon. Of course, you're going to see me tomorrow at 4:30 Eastern time, and we'll take it from there right here at Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football.